Jim Guerrera here with SCN, and with me today is SCN's Dan Ramon. Dan, how are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Yourself, Jim?
I am well, sir. You and I have known each other a long time, over 12 years. We've worked together, and today we'd like to hear a little bit more about your story in detail, and if you could take it all the way back for me, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So myself, I'm born and raised in the city of Detroit. It was an area today known as Mexican Town. Back then it was just only one area as that. They had kind of different areas of Detroit in that part of Southwest where there was Corktown as well. So I was in that area all the time with my grandma living there and my dad lived there. So Corktown's known as a big Irish immigrant area. So I went to the Irish Catholic schools there, learned to appreciate the pipes because of that. Right in that area as well is the old Tiger Stadium. Brig Stadium it was once known as over on Michigan and Trumbull. So spent a lot of times listening to Ernie Harwell on the radio, being outside the stadium, especially in '84 when we won the World Series.
What was the neighborhood like after the Tigers pulled that off?
Unbelievable. It was so serene. There people just in the streets celebrating. So excited for the team to have such an achievement for the city, especially. I would say probably for a few weeks, everybody was just so excited, was ready for the next season to kick in.
We may never see a championship again here in Detroit. I mean, you just never can take that for granted. And to be right there in the neighborhood when it happened had to be a phenomenal time.
Absolutely.
And then a few years later, and a few years ago from today, you and I and others from the team did make it out to the World Series here in Detroit where the Tigers played the Giants. We came out on the losing end. But when that game came through, it was clear we had to go because it may never happen again. I mean, you just never can take that for granted. So congrats to you that you got to see it close back in '84.
Who was your favorite player?
Alan Trammell, by far.
Why'd you like him?
Trammell was a hard worker. He put all his best effort into the game. He learned the game. He studied it, and it wasn't about Trammell. It was all about the whole team, being that player. Him and Lou Whitaker has such a great double team that they have right there. And again, they learned each other's thoughts. They knew each other's movements. And that was one thing about Trammell that really stood out was it wasn't per se always his performance at the bat, but it was his performance on the field and even off the field.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You grew up in a neighborhood in the city, and you got through your school days. Tell me about your professional career. What were some of your experiences that you had?
I've held a variety of jobs. I've started out working in a movie theater to actually working for a car dealership. And then I even had the opportunity of working in retail, but also, which plays into the whole industrial, was actually for several years worked for a manufacturing facility. We were a paper company. We supplied products for Georgia Pacific, which were used in doctor's offices, dental offices, which are those little paper gowns, paper bibs, that little paper sheet that goes over the little bed. That's what we manufactured. So having that hands-on with not only, say, operating a machine, but also having to do the maintenance repairs on these machines every time they broke down. And then even also being a utility relief, so I learned a variety of different machines to operate as well, besides riding the forklifts and the same thing, learning to do maintenance on a forklift. So one of the great aspects of that was being in the industrial world with that manufacturing. But then I've worked for a auction as well, became a level 2 inspector of framing body damage. So any vehicle that came in actually off the Ford fleet, I would sit there right off the bat and inspect it for the body shop, writing up the quotes for that.
And you also moved out to Missouri. What can you tell me about that role?
Actually, when I lived there, Missouri really wasn't on a map. It was that small. Nobody knew of Joplin, that little tiny town, before the tornadoes. So it was a small town. Like I said, nobody knew about it. And I actually worked for Target there. I worked in their back end. So I was on the flow team. We unloaded the trucks. We separated the products, inspected the products, and then went and stocked the shelves. And it was a great job, but definitely during the holidays, very hectic.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you moved back here to Michigan. You were interested in being closer to home, closer to your family. And then soon thereafter, you and I met. And then that's where it all began. You became a part of SCN. Do you remember our first conversation and the first time we met?
Yes, absolutely. It was one of those harsher, colder winters in February here in Michigan.
It was a freezing cold day. And do you remember the room we met in?
Yes, a room that wasn't properly insulated. I mean, not that the building wasn't, it was just pretty cold in there, but, I wasn't going to complain.
You're absolutely correct. The building was freezing cold, and we had this empty room that wasn't properly insulated, and we didn't run heat to it for that reason. But that was the open room where you and I could meet. And I wore a jacket, I had gloves on, I think I had a scarf on, or possibly even a cap or a hat. And you sat across the desk from me, and you had a short sleeve shirt on, no jacket, and you were rock solid, buddy. You were not fazed in the least. I asked you several times if you were cold, and you just gave me a stone cold straight reaction. No, I'm fine. I knew that you were a tough guy after that meeting. Do you remember what you told me during that meeting, what you were looking for in your career?
Absolutely. One, looking for a place to call home, but looking for not just a professional career growth, but also even on a personal level. There were goals there as well I'd love to accomplish. And one of the nice things was being part of SCN on that professional career goals being accomplished allowed the personal goals to also come into fruition.
Yeah, and absolutely. And you joined 12 years ago. We were just in the middle of the financial crisis. It was tight. The business was a little bit tighter. But every year you just kept plugging away, and you got a little better and a little better and a little better. And professionally, you have become a leader in your space. And also personally, you told me that your goal was to get married, have a family, have a home, and you have achieved all of that and then some. You have a beautiful family, a beautiful wife that supports you, and you guys have a great thing going. And it's so satisfying to see somebody full out their dreams and their goals and do it. And you did it the old-fashioned way. Just good, hard work, dedication, every day better than the next. You don't complain, you work hard, and you do whatever it takes to be successful. And I cannot thank you enough for that, for everything that you've done and everything that you continue to do for the firm. You're a special guy there, Dan. Let me ask you this. Can you tell us a little bit about your desk, what your area of coverage is, and what you do to work with the people in your area?
My desk is the industrial manufacturing sector. product wise, can literally range from abrasives to welding and everything in between. One of the great things about it is that there's so many different professionals in here, from application engineering to sales to quality. So one of the nice things about being in this space is getting to really get to know each of these individuals, from the individual on the floor to the person selling the product to the person having to go and improve the processes in these plants. So dealing with these individuals has allowed me to also grow in the space by asking questions, digging in, one, getting to know not only these individuals, but their job, so that when we have different clients looking for certain backgrounds, we know the people that we're looking for. And getting to know them and getting to know the space better, knowing the products better, allows to have those conversations very easily with them, because you're on that one-on-one level with them. They understand where you're at, they understand their product, and they want to talk more.
Absolutely. And what's really cool is that as our business has changed, the world of recruiting, you have been able to keep with you some of our old school techniques. And that's one of the things, in addition to your expertise and your approach and your instincts, that has been able to separate you from the pack. Can you speak to that a little bit in terms of how you go and attack an assignment?
Yeah, absolutely. To me, when it comes to an assignment, detail is important. From obtaining as much information up front to throughout the process. If details change, staying on top of those details, learning that. But the big thing is being a individual who isn't afraid to get the job done. Part of that is just, cold calling, not being afraid to pick up the phone. That's the old school, is getting on the phone, dialing number after number after number, talking to each and every individual. Not saying that, these social media platforms need to be avoided, but sometimes you just can't really convey what you're looking for or hear from somebody on their background. Anybody can sometimes type what they'd like to type, but when you're on the phone with them, you're hearing them, you're talking with them, you really learn more about that person and their background. That verbal communication is very key, and that's something that just will continue to be used, is just being on the phone, digging in. And like I said, the biggest part about that is the more we know, the better we can grow.
Absolutely. And one of the things that's really cool is that you and Justin have a symbiotic relationship. That's Justin Maceras from SCN. And you two work very close together on multiple positions every year. And it is so gratifying to see each of you excel individually, but then also collectively together as a team. And it's unparalleled, really, in terms of what your presence is in the industrial product space, you and Justin together. You are clearly the leading recruiting team in all of the country. And it is such a pleasure to have you here at the firm and working under our roof, so to speak. So thank you for that. You have earned that reputation, not just by your success, but also by the way that you've interacted with people and treated people along the way. And for that, Dan, I am forever appreciative. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
One last thing.
You also have achieved pace setter status within the Broad Stroke MRI network through accomplishment in achieving sales over a very high threshold. That's something that also should be recognized here today, that you are a internationally known and a high-level status achiever within that network, and I'm confident that based on your work ethic and the way that you approach search, that it's going to continue on in the days ahead. So Only good things ahead, my friend.
Absolutely. And as I, talked about the Trammell and Whitaker team, that's how Justin and I are.
I love it. I love it.
The battery up the middle. I love it. Turning two. So I couldn't agree more, Dan. It's really cool. Dan, thank you for everything that you've done for our firm. It is a privilege working with you, and I look forward to great days ahead, bud.